All right, we're back. Episode 11.
Tara and Jen.
Go full Amazon. So tonight, we are going to be speaking about some of the changes in CrossFit. We have a great special guest that we're excited about, and also talk about like the overall feeling of, you know, chronic disease and fitness and how we fight that along the way. And, you know, who knows what else is going to come up. So what I wanted to talk about is, like, you know, in the morning chalk, as of recently, there's been some news about some changes in the way that CrossFit is going to be handling the competition and the games, and what the focus is as a general change to the whole mindset and the whole way that CrossFit is going to be operating from. So I found this quote and this really interesting thing that's kind of what we want to focus on from the morning chalk from an August report. So it says, significant portion of CrossFit financials goes to building and supporting competitive competition for 0.1% of athletes, with the games and the regionals and the open. These resources, which could be going to support training and equipping the affiliates on the front lines in the fight against chronic disease.
So this is one of our favorite topics. Usually, number one, because Jen and I are both in the health professional world in different areas. And so we wanted to bring on a friend of ours who we've been CrossFitting with, and we are sitting here in the glamorous dining room of Jen with Charlotte Moriarty. And did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. And she is a sports medicine physician. I apologize. And we had been stalking her Instagram, and we noticed that she kind of shares some of the same views on incorporating nutrition and lifestyle changes along with fitness and family in order to be like the best version of you. So we wanted to bring her on and kind of all share our viewpoints on that and talk about the CrossFit Games changes and see where we go. So welcome to the dining room.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You're a good sport, Charlotte. You're a good sport. Because we have no idea what's going to happen, you know? But it's funny. And what always happens is whenever we have our podcast, we always start talking. And then we're like, wait. We need to be recording this, because we always do like a little talk and stuff like that. And then you started talking about so many awesome things that we're like, oh, wait a minute. Stop talking right now. And we need to get going, you know? So it's very exciting.
So how would you, in your own words, like how would you describe the changes that are coming to CrossFit coming from a physician's perspective?
Yeah, so there's a big movement in CrossFit right now to focus on health, and that's really what CrossFit is all about. In recent years, CrossFit has kind of developed this competitive persona, if you will, with a lot of focus on these uber athletes who many of us, you know, may aspire to be like that someday, but the reality is that for most of us, we're not in the gym to be a professional athlete and to go to the CrossFit Games.
And in my mind, sometimes I feel like I am.
Yeah, sometimes.
But then I do a movement and I'm like, yeah, you're never going to do that.
I was holding out hope that I would be one of the top 200 masters in the world to make the qualifier, but it's not going to happen. But in reality, what is happening in CrossFit gyms every day is that there are millions of people that are going into the gym and just becoming better versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's not just through fitness from the workouts they get in CrossFit, but CrossFit has a whole philosophy of including diet and sleep and stress reduction and taking care of really the whole person. It's really more than just a workout.
Well, and I love that too, because I think that not only is that the focus, but the scope of the scope and the vast amount of people that CrossFit actually touches. I mean, there's like crazy stats out right now with this whole change that they're saying that if CrossFit was like a fast food chain, it would be one of like the highest ones that we have in the country or in the world, something like that, because of the sheer number of volume of affiliates and then the people that they have in their membership and the way that it's grown so much. So talk about a place where they can actually touch how many people in a level of like fitness and well-being.
And I think what's interesting is I don't think we've even scratched the surface of how many people you can connect and work with. I mean, like CrossFit went from this very intimidating infrastructure to a place where now you have adaptive athletes, you have kids. We've seen women at competitions who are in their 70s competing. Like that's a lot of different people. And now, I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, now you're seeing like the morbidly obese getting into the CrossFit gym and, you know, crawling over a box.
Yeah.
or just doing a step
Yeah.
up.
Right. And more than that, I think CrossFit does reach very broadly. And I think CrossFit's making a great move by moving more towards this CrossFit health perspective, towards treating the everyman. Because to some extent, that competitive persona is going to scare some people away. They're going to think, that's not for me. That's not me. I'm too fat. I'm too weak. I have no cardio. I can't go into a CrossFit gym because I'm not capable. When that's not true. CrossFit is welcoming of everybody from all abilities and all ages too. One of the great things about CrossFit is it is infinitely scalable. And one of my favorite quotes is that CrossFit is something that even your grandparents can do.
Yeah.
And I love personally seeing the videos in CrossFit of elderly individuals,
like the 90-year-olds
who look very frail,
Yeah.
and they're working with a CrossFit coach on how to get up and down off the floor.
Right.
And we all know from working in the health profession that once you lose the ability to get up off the floor, your morbidity significantly goes through the roof, and your life expectancy is very low from that point on.
Yeah.
And so just to be getting these people in doing that very functional movement, we're going to have you standing up and down from a box, which is the same thing that you do every day to get in and out of a chair, in and out of a wheelchair, if you're using that for transportation, on and off the toilet, and then to be able to get on and off the floor so that if you did have a fall, you can actually get back up and not be stuck waiting for help. It really has great potential for making us healthier as a society.
And I think that's really interesting when I love the stat of this whole 0.0% of the athletes, because it's funny because even with that 0.01%, some people are really motivated by that 0.01%, so there is a group, which is so cool about what we do, is that you can be motivated by that, or you can be that 90-year-old who's like, I just don't want to fall down, and I think that that's a really great scope, and and we're lucky to have it. And we're definitely lucky to have it. I love that as a global standpoint, they really are focusing on overall health, and not that.
And I love that because I think at the end of the day, I think we all know that, medicine has its place. But I definitely think our lifestyle in Western society contributes a lot to our chronic disease. And I think we rely a little bit too much on medicine and the quick fix magic pill rather than looking at ourselves and being like, what am I eating? What am I doing every day? How is my stress level too high? Am I sleeping only 5 hours of sleep at night? Things like that.
So as a sports medicine physician, I see a lot of acute injuries, but I also see a lot of chronic pain issues. And it's amazing to see on a daily basis just how much the American lifestyle is impacting our people, in that individuals who are working at a desk all day and then going and doing an hour of high intensity workout are still suffering the same effects of sitting at a desk all day as the individual who's not getting any exercise at all.
Wow.
So it's not what you're doing for that hour a day. It's really what are you doing for all of your waking hours. And if you're putting yourself in a poor position, such as in a chair for 10 hours a day as you sit and work at your desk, you're getting kind of sucked in by your technology, and it wreaks havoc on your posture, which carries over into everything that you do. And so I really think we need to see major changes, not only in our kind of general health and fitness, but really in the working population as well, in the way that we approach work. Because where we're going now, sitting down, Kelly Starrett of Mobility WOD is famous for saying sitting is the new smoking, and sitting is the new smoking. It destroys your feet, your hips, your back, your neck, your shoulders. I mean, everything from your
whole
head
kinetic
to
chain,
your toes. And it's something that I tell my patients, I said, the chair is evil, and I want you to spend as little time in a chair as possible.
I think I need to quit my job.
Tara's like, I can't go to work anymore because I sit all day long.
I do. I sit with patients all day long next to an anesthesia machine, listening to the beeps of the heart.
Well, and the sad part about it is, is it actually that starts even with our kids in school.
And that's my biggest fear, is that a lot of the injuries that I'm seeing in kids and the overuse injuries all comes back to movement dysfunction. And so going back to CrossFit, to kind of tie this all together, CrossFit promotes these foundational movements. So things like you should be able to squat. You should be able to hinge, such as in a deadlift. You should be able to pull, as in a pull-up. You should be able to push, like a push-up. How many of our kids can do that? You know, we used to have growing up
ours can because we make them.
Because we make them, right?
Yeah.
But how many kids can't?
Yeah,
because you as soon as our children get into school, they're put into shoes full time. And as soon as they're put into shoes full time, their running gait changes. So you watch a young child who's not yet entered school, you watch them run. They run beautifully. Yeah. They've got a nice forward lean. They've got a very tall posture. And they are on the balls of their feet. And they run beautifully. As soon as you put them into shoes, they start heel striking. Yeah. And they start running much more clumsily, which puts them at an increased risk for injury. You put them in a chair all day doing their schoolwork, and it just increases that movement dysfunction. Yeah. So I get a lot of young athletes who come to see me in the office who cannot squat. So they're out there playing basketball, soccer, football, but they cannot do a simple body weight squat without their entire lower extremity caving in, which not only puts them at risk for overuse injuries like tendonitis and stress fractures, but it also increases their risk for major acute injuries like ACL tears. Yeah. It's funny because my two boys are, you know, I mean, first of all, they're going to be giant, and I know that they grow at like crazy exponential rates. Yeah. Just because my ex-husband's 6'7", I'm 5'10", like they're just going to be big kids. So I stretch mine on a regular basis. You know, I mean, that's my field, and that's what I do for a living. But I stretch them because I'm like, you need, you know, to get some hamstring mobility and some IT band, because I'm like, I know their bodies are going so fast, but not everybody gets to do that. Right. Yeah. Right. You know, and I take mine to the gym. Like mine come to the gym and they lift and they, you know, they work in their body position. It's funny because I think I was telling Tara that my oldest one went to a class with me this week, and his body, his position and his mechanics was completely different than it was last year. Mm-hmm. Which was so great to see because, again, he's 11, but still, like, you know, his push-ups were perfect and stuff. I was like, it's really cool to see that.
He's making that mind-body connection.
Yeah. But for kids, they grow so fast, and their bones grow first, and then their muscles and tendons and connective tissues have to catch up. Yeah. So we see a lot of issues, like, for example, very tight hamstrings in a lot of our kids because they sit all day. Mm-hmm. And then their femurs, their thigh bones, are growing so fast that their hamstrings just can't catch up, and it's causing, you know, back pain in our kids. And our kids shouldn't have back pain. Yeah. But they do.
So if you could change our school system, what would you do? What's one thing just in relation to what you do and you see every day? What would you change?
Yeah. So what I would, if I could kind of redesign the school system, our kids would have. They would have options for seating. As opposed to being forced to sit at a desk, there would be standing desks, there would be beanbag chairs, there would be spaces to sit on the floor and sprawl out. There would be things called like fidget bars, where if they are sitting at a desk, they can move and fidget. And I would encourage regular movement throughout the day. Ideally, as opposed to having a single 30-minute break for recess after lunch, there would be movement breaks occurring throughout the day, as well as learning on the move. There's a great video that I can't remember where I saw it, but about a school in Asia, and I can't remember where, but the school was set outdoors, and it was a 2-tiered wooden platform. Oh my God. And the education was the kids were constantly on the move, and they were learning as they were moving, and their classrooms were in the open air, and if it was raining, you just went down to the lower tier to get out of the rain, but there were trees woven through this structure, and they were in nature and learning, but they had the ability to be constantly moving.
Oh my God, so, my son would thrive in that environment.
Well, actually, I think most boys do. Yeah. I think there was a Time magazine article where that had a school for girls and a school for boys, and they were testing this theory out. Yeah. And they had, because boys get labeled as being ADHD, ADD, because they can't sit still. And really, like, a lot of them like to move around and can learn because they got to touch everything and see it, feel it.
Yeah, it goes against their natural instinct. Yeah. You know, children are not made to sit still and learn from books. They're made to be learning through experiences and to be experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, if you hand a child a toy and tell them nothing about it, they will explore that toy and find out everything it can do. Whereas if you hand them a toy and say, this toy does this, they'll kind of look at that one thing and be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
So they want to learn things and explore things on their own. Now, is it realistic for me to completely change the classroom in that way? Like, I'd like to think so, but realistically, maybe not, not in my lifetime. But things that, other ways that we can improve is let's take our youth sports and let's take the emphasis away from the competition, and let's put the movement. So start with PE class. Let's talk about how to move, how to squat. Because toddlers can squat great. They can roll, they can crawl, they can squat, they can pull themselves up. Let's keep that going, because those are things we need to be able to maintain through our lives. Then
those primary movements.
Exactly. Keeping those primary movements by keeping them in our gym classes, and get rid of things like dodgeball and
What do you mean the parachute? What about the parachute game?
Because what does that do?
You got to do the parachute game, right?
But then beyond that, taking our sports and, I can get down a rabbit hole with talking about youth sports special.
Yeah, because you're doing, you're doing high school, what games do you do, do you handle?
So I am a team physician for multiple local high schools, and I've been team physician for one of our local Division III colleges as well. Right. But I also work with younger athletes. So my youngest patient was less than a year old, and my oldest is in her 90s. So I really see a huge range. But as far as the youth sports go, when we're looking at kids who have not yet reached skeletal maturity, so, below the age of 15 to 16, anything less than high school, really the focus should be on a wide variety of skill development. And the
because their growth plates are still, because all their growth plates are still inactive, and it's crazy. Well, and you're seeing that too, and this is we are going in a completely different tangent, but that's okay, because I even see it with as we talk about kids and athletes and sports and stuff like that. So I have as a mother have gotten suckered into, and I don't want to say suckered into because it's probably been a benefit, but my kids have gone from recreational soccer to travel team soccer to now we're at an elite level at 8 years old, which to me seems ridiculous. And I went from paying $50 for rec, and now I'm paying $1,600 for my child to play soccer. And he just turned 8. So I sit there and I'm like, is this crazy that we're even doing this? And I did it for a coaching reason, because I needed to remove myself from being his coach, and the way to do that was to get him out of the league. So I kind of had to do that for that reason. But still, I look at it, I'm like, this is the direction we're going in. And then at 12 years old, is he going to be burned out and be like, I don't want to do this anymore? There's too much pressure. My oldest one, we did the same track, and by 11, he was like, I don't want to play soccer anymore. $6,000 later, he doesn't want to play soccer anymore.
Yeah. So there's a great book, I think it's called Open. It's the story of Andre Agassi.
Oh, yeah.
And so Andre Agassi, phenomenal tennis player. He was forced into tennis at a young age by his parents. And his parents actually bought a piece of property so that they could build a court and built a machine to feed him tennis balls, and his father forced him to be out there hitting tennis balls. And throughout the entire book, he talks about how much he hated tennis. Yeah. He was sent away to one of these tennis academies that are becoming more and more popular, and essentially forced to play, and it was the only thing he knew. So he got to a point where he just kept doing it because he didn't know how to do anything else. But even into adulthood, right up until the day that he retires, he claims, I hate tennis. And he retired at 30-something years old, a completely broken man sleeping on the floor because he was in such terrible pain, because he had been put through, that abuse of. It's an extreme example of sports specialization. That the worst possible thing that can happen. But to bring this back to how does this tie into CrossFit? And CrossFit Health. So there's a huge movement in CrossFit Health, not only to get our older individuals off the floor, but let's get our kids moving. Let's teach our kids how to move properly. And for a lot of our kids, it can be a really useful adjunct to a sports program. Yes. So, for our young athletes, they should not be really playing any one sport 4 seasons in a row. They should be having at least 1 season away from that organized sport, if not more. And they're going to get their best benefit and development as an athlete from participating in multiple different sports with multiple different skill sets. So CrossFit, where it has weightlifting, gymnastics,
Cardiovascular.
cardiovascular, like so many different domains that it's working on can be really
Explosive
beneficial
movements,
for our
balance,
young athletes.
yeah, agility.
Yeah.
Your cat just attacked him.
Is that what that was?
There was a fatality outside on Jen's porch. Her cat just viciously attacked a moth.
Would you like to come inside, Your Highness? Come here. And you think he's like 400 pounds.
It was an epic battle.
he's like 6 pounds. Full of heart, though, that one. Full of heart. That's Hank.
Speaking of CrossFit athletes, he just scaled that door like it was nothing.
With no legs. He just
no legs.
All right, sorry for Hank's interruption.
No worries.
So so we were talking before the start of the podcast. All right, so we heard that you're going to do a training.
Yes.
Right, so you're going to get your
CrossFit level 1.
Yep.
And I'm going to be doing that actually out at the CrossFit Ranch in Aromas, California in March. And
that's like the original ranch where they did the first games, right?
Yeah, it's Dave Castro's family ranch. It's where they had the original CrossFit Games, and they hold the class right there in the barn structure, and you get to work out right there, which is amazing. Wow. But this is one of the things that Greg Glassman is doing is to try. He's really trying to get the medical community on board with CrossFit because, we don't need to go into it here, but basically the medical system has gotten so focused on disease care, and we need to be more about
and pharmaceuticals.
Prevention.
Yeah,
exactly. It needs to be more about prevention.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can say that here. It's okay.
So he's really trying to get the medical community on board, and so he's holding these level 1 trainings that are specific for physicians.
Yeah.
So the certification is actually a CrossFit MD level 1, and everyone who participates in these trainings is a physician. So you get to take your level 1 with all physicians. Well, and it's a great network opportunity.
And not only networking for you, but think about the affiliate. So if we go back to the affiliate, so when you come back here to our cute little town in Wakefield, and you are the CrossFit MD here in town, that's a lot of credibility. Yeah. Not just for you, but also for your box. You know what I mean? And that makes CrossFit something completely different than anything that's available in town.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it's really awesome, Charlotte. It really is. It's really awesome.
One of my biggest things with treating injuries is that if you injure your ankle, you shouldn't be shut down as an athlete.
Right.
There are very few instances in which you need to be completely shut down.
When you break your toe.
Not when you break your toe. We can talk about that later.
I'm having surgery on Monday.
But there's always something that you can be doing while you're healing from your injury that is allowing you to continue to train in some capacity to allow you to maintain your identity as an athlete and stay sane, because that is really important, and it's good for your general health too. It's not healthy to sit home on the couch and do nothing.
So how would you do, and sorry to interrupt you, but I'm sure my brain goes to this part. So how do you anticipate managing the boundaries of being an athlete?
Yeah.
And then also being the CrossFit MD coach? You know what I mean? Because just because even Tara and I are out in the community, and people know we're in the medical field. So we're giving free advice to really anybody who hurts themselves. So here you are wanting to come in and do your own gym stuff, or you want to be coaching. But so say that everybody in the gym wants to talk to you about some physical. Yeah. They know you're the MD.
Absolutely.
So now you become the box MD. So how do you anticipate setting boundaries so that you're not giving free? Yeah, because that's something you have to really think about.
Right, absolutely. So it's interesting that you asked that. When I first joined CrossFit South Kingstown, which was, maybe 2 years ago now, one of the box owners, David Bader, reached out to me and he said, if you'd like to bring in some business cards, knowing that I was a sports medicine, if you'd like to leave some business cards here, you're welcome to. Or if you prefer to remain anonymous, just let me know, and I won't tell anybody what you do. Yeah. And I was like, I really appreciate that. Yeah. But I've been able to build my practice in part off of CrossFit through those relationships with people that I've met in the gym, because if you know your doctor, you trust your doctor. And if your doctor knows your sport, they're going to be more capable and willing of working with you in a way to make sure that you don't stay injured. So almost on a daily basis, I get questions when I'm at the gym about, this hurts when I do this, or this hurts, or this hurts. And so my policy in the gym is that I try very much to remain hands-off. In that I'm not doing physical exams in the gym. I'm not, let me press on that, let me check this. But I tend to say, okay, well, where does it hurt? And I offer some very, kind of non-specific general advice. Try this. If it's not better in a week, come see me in the office.
Come see me in the office.
Try this. If it's not better in a couple weeks, come see me in the office.
And she actually did that with me.
Try to.
No, I remember that. No, I remember that. Yeah, and it's good because because most it's funny you say that because I know that even the ones that we work out with at Manic, the physicians there, they see the injuries that we have and stuff like that. And the same thing. Let me, hey, how's it feeling? All right, why don't you make an appointment and come see me? You know? So I mean, they're very respectful of that. But it's funny you say that because I started CrossFit really in the middle of my going back to school in physical therapy because I was like, oh, I'll be better in my business. I'll be better in my career if I know what happens to people when they're actually doing things. I knew nothing about it, and I joined it because my son was playing soccer and I had nothing else to do in that area. But then I was like, oh, I should know about this, because clearly I'm going to have patients, that are going to be injured from doing this stuff. So I might as well know exactly what's happening in there. And then I just got hooked, and then that was it. But
absolutely, I'm going to come back to that in a second. But in terms of I don't want to dissuade anybody from approaching me in the gym. Because there are so many instances when someone can ask me a quick question in the gym and I can give them, just a minute or 2 minutes of my attention, and that's going to be enough to either identify a problem early on or to give them the courage to come and see me in the office, as opposed to if someone's not comfortable approaching me in the gym, this is something that could spiral and we could quickly take something that's very minor and easy to correct that could all of a sudden spiral out of control until the point where it becomes very dysfunctional and they really have to take a lot of time off. And so anyone out there, if you have a question, please feel free to ask. And if I don't think it's appropriate to deal with, curbside, then I have no problems letting you know.
Oh, that's good. No, that's good. Because I think that in part of your training, they'll probably talk about that too. Because that has to be, because you are also there for your own workout. You're allowed to be there and doing your own, workout too. Which is important.
I didn't realize you had only started 2 years ago.
So I started at Crossfit South Kingstown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I moved to Wakefield, about 2.5 years ago. Prior to that, I was out in Michigan for my medical training. I actually started CrossFit back in 2011.
Oh, okay. All right.
So did you do it while you were in school?
I did it while I was in school, until I became pregnant with twins and was on bed rest for 3 months and then had to kind of start all over after they were born.
Yes.
So there was I was in a CrossFit gym 2011, 2012. And then from 2013 until I moved here, and right at the beginning of 2016, I was really working out from CrossFit at home in a home gym. So
doing your own rogue things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We gave up our gym membership, built a home gym, and it was much easier when you have two little.
Well, when you have the two little kids, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, one question I want to ask you, just because you are who you are, is when I first joined CrossFit, there's a lot of naysayers out there, and some of them are like, you shouldn't do CrossFit because the repetitive movements can cause injury. And what do you say to the naysayers?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually research on the subject, and so people have done.
I love research.
I love research. People have done studies on injuries in CrossFit, and so if you look at some of the common pastimes in America, so football for our youth, running for everybody. I wish I put numbers together, but the running, you have a much greater chance of being injured running than you do during CrossFit.
Isn't that funny?
You have a much greater chance of being injured playing football than you do during CrossFit. So the overall injury incidence for CrossFit is actually very, very low. There tends to be, the injuries that do occur during CrossFit tend to be things like biceps tendonitis, which is generally an overuse injury. And it's usually a case of doing too much too soon. And so one of the great things about CrossFit is it's coached. And if you're in a good box with good coaches, they're keeping you in check. Because there's a very systematic progression of movement.
Yes.
So take, for example, since we used the example of biceps tendonitis or pain in the front of the shoulder, the pull-up. A woman should be able to do a minimum of 1 and preferably 3 strict pull-ups before even attempting a kipping pull-up. Nobody wants to hear that.
No.
Nobody wants to do that. Everybody is so desperate to get that first kipping pull-up, but it's really important for the health of your connective tissue. Because if you just start going out there and swinging from the bars and coming down with all of that lengthening force, that eccentric force, you're going to destroy your connective tissue. And that is what gets people out of CrossFit and what gives people a bad rap, is that if people are doing too much too soon and are being inappropriately supervised, it's very much a matter of stepwise progression with a focus on you need to develop the proper technique and you need to develop the proper movement patterns before you can begin to add weight and increase complexity.
And that's finding the right coach in the right box.
So that leads to another question, though. So, because you brought up a good point, how do you know you have a good coach? Because if you're a new person walking into this intimidating gym, how do you know you don't have, Johnny lifts a lot.
Right. Yeah. And I knew, when I joined the one that I went to, I knew it was the right spot for me because I walked in and, visually I'm very fit. But he wouldn't let me touch any weight until I got some of the movement patterns down. He's like, I know you're strong and I know you're fit. He's like, but you're not allowed to touch any weight. So I worked with a PVC pipe for weeks at a time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because he's like, you're not touching anything.
Yeah.
He's like, I know you're fit. Yeah. I know you're strong. He's like, but you can't move yet.
Yeah.
So, it was humble. And that probably got me more hooked than anything else because here I was, someone who's been fit and athletic, and they challenged me because now I'm like, I have to learn something. I have to learn something new. And now, I'm 2 years later too, and I'm still learning things. I'm still not at places that I want to be, and that's kind of gets you in there, but it's still with that basic foundation of I had to learn how to move. And I bring it back because I got injured a couple months ago, and I had to bring my movements back to a low weight, lots of reps, not going heavy, so that I could then kind of relearn to move again the right way. Which is humbling.
It's so humbling. So I back in 2012, I was doing a ton of long distance running at the time, and I was out in San Francisco for a conference, and I went to the parking lot of dreams, San Francisco CrossFit, and took a class with Kelly Starrett, and I think either the morning of the class.
I have his book right over there. Did you see that?
I love Kelly Starrett.
Right, I have the supple leopard right there.
I went for a 12-mile run. So it was I was fit.
Yeah.
I went to his class, and he ripped my squat to shreds because I couldn't squat.
Yeah.
I was the worst.
Did you cry?
I didn't because I knew I couldn't squat.
Yeah.
And I was there to learn. But we all start somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I think it can be really frustrating for some athletes as they come into a CrossFit gym and they see these athletes moving well and moving big weights and doing these fancy gymnastic movements to be told, nope, you need to use a PVC pipe, or no, you are not allowed to hang from that pull-up bar because you're doing ring rows instead. That can be very discouraging. So in terms of finding a good coach, a coach is not, in CrossFit, a coach's job is not just to egg you on. But if you're not getting technique corrections from a coach, then I would recommend finding another coach. And it may be that you need to find a whole different box. It may be that you need to find just a different coach within your box. But if your true goal is to get better and to get healthier, you need to find someone who's willing to give you and able to give you that feedback and those corrections, because
you want it to be long term.
None of us,
right? You want it to be a long term thing.
None of us move perfectly.
No.
And I think we all do this because we have some desire to get better. And one of the huge advantages of CrossFit is that you're working with a coach. Is that every time you go into that gym for a workout of the day, you're getting coached, which is really pretty an amazing thing.
That's a great point, because I think that people discount that.
Right. People
that you're getting one-on-one personal training. You really are getting, but you're really getting one-on-one personal training. Really, you are.
You are.
With the competitive people next to you if you want to have that. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. Yeah, right. And especially if you find the right one. It's fun, because I've been, now I've been going to way more South Kingston classes, and I found some of the coaches there. I'm like, I really have been enjoying like the coaching, and I find it so helpful, and I find it like where little things that you pick up on where I'm like, I've been doing this for 2 years. I never have heard that, or been able to put that together into function. You know?
And I think it's helpful to go at different times too with different people. Like, for me, the 5:30 a.m. works out too. But there's a lot of really good
afternoon coaches,
athletes in the 5:30 a.m. class, and just like little things I pick up just from watching her, or like being next to her, or from Paul, or just anyone. And Dave's a great coach. Like, it's just a good mix, and you find your niche of where you belong.
Yeah. And you'll find, at least what I found personally, is you find that you gravitate to different coaches for different reasons.
Yeah.
So you may find that you really like the way that one coach coaches gymnastics, or that you really like the way one coach coaches Olympic lifts. And so when you have flexibility in your schedule, I'll actually find myself gravitating to those individuals when the workout or skill is focusing on those specific things, because I know that they have a talent coaching that area.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
You talked about, let me just see, go back to the MD training, because I think you were talking about, before we started, was talking about Dr. O's.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna say the name wrong.
Oh, so it's Dr.
O,
Dr.
right?
Robert O. Yeah, which is spelled O-H.
Yeah. You started on that, and we were like, no, don't finish that. Don't finish that.
So he's an Army physician who is very actively involved in CrossFit, and he is a member of the American Medical Society of Sports Medicine, which I am also a member of, and that is a group of non-surgical sports medicine providers. We have a big annual conference every year in the spring, and last year they kind of did this almost like these lightning talks where there was 20-minute presentations on different sports. Like
a TED Talk, almost like the TED Talk format?
Kind of, yeah. Okay. So it was very quick, and it was just like, it was the fringe sports. So as a sports medicine physician, we just talk a ton about the throwing athletes. We talk a ton about football, a ton about basketball, a ton about soccer, hockey, the big major sports. But then there's the fringe sports, like the equestrian sports and boxing,
swimming,
and martial arts. Swimming is a little bit more major, but CrossFit is definitely one of those fringe sports that we don't really learn and discuss much about at our annual meeting, because we're so focused on the main sports. And so Dr. O actually presented on high intensity interval training and CrossFit, and one of his big presentation points was that the incidence of injury is very low in CrossFit, in comparison to a lot of these other sports that we're dealing with, and trying to, there's a general feeling historically in the medical community to shy away from CrossFit, oh no, don't do CrossFit, you're going to get hurt,
right?
And that really comes from, I think, from a lack of understanding about what CrossFit is and what its intentions are. But we're currently Dr. O is working on putting together a proposal for our annual meeting next year, involving not CrossFit specifically, but the use of high-intensity interval training for general health and for promoting general health. Because even in sports medicine, we're not just about the athletes. We're also about promoting general health in the general population through physical activity.
So when you speak about that, which is so awesome and wonderful to hear, because it's funny, because on working in the hospital, and I'm on the receiving end of patients that are coming out from joint replacements. So I'm seeing patients that are probably the worst they possibly could be in their life. They haven't been mobile, they haven't been able to move, they're obese, and they're not changing their lives. They think that these surgeries are going to change their life. So, and I, in my mind, and my father was a physician, so I come from that, that medical family background and stuff like that. But I always am concerned that the conversations aren't able to be had at the physician level because of time, and they have to get them in and out of the office so quick, or they're just quick to do. Like, it just seems, I'm so happy, and it's so awesome to hear you speak in that perspective. And I don't know if it's just specific to what you do or who you are, but it would be awesome to know that, like, that's something that's going to be coming on with not only this change we're seeing in CrossFit, pushing that, but also, like, just the way that we're seeing, like, the whole, like, America is really, I mean, because, like, the patients that we see, it's like, how are they doing this when they are 100 pounds overweight? Like, why are people not talking to them about what you just said, lifestyle and movement, and, you know, because it's not just, hey, get your knee replaced, and then all of a sudden you're going to lose 100 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and ideally, we want your BMI below 40 before you have your knee
But who's having these conversations with them? Because I don't think the physicians can.
Right. Yeah. So my clinical practice, I work in an orthopedic group.
Yeah.
So I am the only non-surgical provider in our orthopedic group. And the way that I practice is very different from my colleagues.
I can tell,
Because of my primary care background. I take a lot more time with my patients. And I see a lot fewer patients. So I take home a much smaller paycheck. Yeah. But, you know, it becomes to me, it's not about how many patients can I turn through in a day. Yeah. And
do you have to justify that?
You do
have to justify that?
To some extent.
Which is really sad. Isn't that crazy that you have to justify I'm taking good care of my patients?
Yeah, it is. It is. Our whole system's backwards.
That's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole nother podcast. but, you know, I think as a practice, I think we do the best that we can with the time that we have available and the knowledge that we have available. And you have to know your patient too, because there are some patients who come in and they will do absolutely everything they can to get better. And then there are others who are like, just give me a shot.
Yes, I know.
Even though I say that, you know, I can give you a cortisone shot today, it's going to take your pain away, but it's going to wear off somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months, and then we're going to be right back where we started, if not even worse off. It's a Band-Aid. I don't care. Give me the shot. There's always going to be those individuals, and the best I can do is try to educate them, you know? Mm-hmm. And
we find that, I mean, I find that even in my scope, like I have them for 3 days, and, you know, and really when they're in the hospital post-op, we're the ones who are spending the most time with them. You know, we really, like, I see them 3 times a day. You know, I'm getting, because they'll be like, oh, the doctor said I could go home today. I'm like, oh, well, they don't know that you have, like, 17 stairs to get in, and you have a St. Bernard, and you have a husband who has Alzheimer's who's in a nursing home. Like, they don't know that stuff. And so we might think that maybe going home today might not be a good idea. But, like, you know, and we have the ability to make those decisions, but we're spending the time with the patients.
Exactly.
I think you made a very good point about knowing your patient, because realistically, we're not going to change our healthcare system today. But with people like you and I, who are all, we're all in this one little small hospital. That's 3 people who have the same goal in mind of promoting health. Yeah. And we just need to take that time to spread that message to as many patients that want to hear it. And there is there's an art to how to talk to certain people. Yeah.
And you know the ones you can, like, you know, and you know that. You know the ones you can talk to.
So I had a patient the other day who was having surgery, and I actually didn't end up talking to her, but she had her husband started talking about, like, the great health care he had gotten there, and that he had a quadruple bypass. And I was like, well, if he's going to be open to me about, like, his past surgeries, I said, well, what did you do to change your lifestyle? And he goes, nothing. And I go, oh, okay. I go, they cut open your chest and took veins from the rest of your body and covered your heart. What are you going to do the next time you have a heart attack? And he was like, all right. He's like, I'll listen. He goes, you know, and I was like, you need to start looking at your diet. Like, what do you eat every day? Yeah. You know, and his wife's sitting there, and she's getting ready to have his surgery, and she's like, oh, he does not eat well. You know, he drinks a lot of beer, and, you know, but that conversation, like, I may not change that life, but I got him thinking for at least 30 seconds that maybe he needs to look at his nutrition, and maybe he needs to not be drinking beer.
I love those moments. I have those moments too, and you're like, you know, who knows what you do.
And that's the best we can do, because the only thing you control is what you do to your own body.
Yeah.
And we do that. I think we do that as a philosophy, kind of as we integrate with people all over the place. Like, I know that Tara and I have exposure to so many people in, like, the gym and then the hospital, and, like, you know, just out in the sports with our kids. You know, tonight I was at a football field with, I probably, you know, 100 families, you know, watching the kids play football and stuff like that, and talking about stuff. So we have this exposure, and I always feel like we always come from a place of, like, if we could just put a bug in somebody's ear. You know, I don't ever want to be someone where you can't approach me because they're like, oh God, they're going to talk about like what you're eating and like judge you and how much you worked out. Because I mean, I feel like sometimes we're like a confessional. Oh, I just want you to know I ate like salads. You know what I mean? Or I worked out today. I'm like, I don't care what you did. Like, you know, are you feel good? Do you feel healthy? Like, so I think that is always the way to come from. Is that like if you just shift somebody's like thought process for a minute. You know, it's a huge difference. You know.
And you mentioned something earlier too about a lack of knowledge. And I think that is huge, and especially going back to the nutrition, because I don't think most of our patients know what nutrition is. Right. And I kind of just want to shift the conversation a little bit, because one of the things that I see you talking about a lot, and we started talking about this a little bit before we started recording, was about, I had mentioned that we were going to get dinner, and you decided to eat with your family because you've got some intolerances. And you are all about promoting your own health through your nutrition. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, and I'm a strong believer that there is no one diet that works well for everybody. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are all unique snowflakes, and we all have unique genetics from unique backgrounds, and different things are going to work for us at different stages of our lives. And so the diet that worked for you a year ago may not be the best diet for you today. Mm-hmm. And we are a constant experiment of one. And you need to be constantly experiment with your diet and determining what works best for you. I developed a lot of GI issues very early on during medical school, and ultimately found that I had intolerances to gluten, dairy, and soy. Soon after that, I adopted a vegetarian and then a vegan diet, and I stayed that way for 7 years. And initially it worked very well for me until at one point I was depleted and it wasn't working anymore. At that point I shifted more to a paleo diet, went through a transition phase where I started adding in a lot more carbohydrates from things like sweet potatoes, actually really only sweet potatoes, because that was really the only carbohydrate that my body could tolerate. Mm-hmm. And I was doing that for not only body composition, but also performance in CrossFit, as I was starting to become more competitive over the last couple of years. I eventually got to the point where I was like, my body doesn't want carbohydrates. Like I constantly felt like I was forcing them. And I was like, I don't want this, but and so I very recently went low carb, high fat, which is very much in line with what CrossFit Health is currently promoting. And for me, it's been about 3.5 months now. It's been working fantastic. My body composition has slightly improved. I've lost 2 or 3 pounds overall, and an inch off my waist and an inch off my hips in that 3.5 months, and I'm not trying to lose weight. My performance has actually at least remained stable. I've seen a lot of things go up, but I can't say whether that's due to diet or just due to training effect over time. Yeah. But it certainly has not gone down for me. Mm-hmm. So CrossFit Health promotes this whole foods diet, and they say you should eat meats, fish, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. And no sugar is zero sugar. So no honey, no maple syrup, no sugar. And they're actually starting to see that in using this diet, which is very much a low carb, high fat diet, not necessarily ketogenic, but based on whole unprocessed foods, is not only helping people lose weight, get healthier, they're seeing it reverse things like type 2 diabetes. So people who, are taking insulin and multiple diabetic medications and can't get their blood sugars under control are adopting these sorts of diets and getting off of all their medication to the point where all their diabetic
that article just posted today about that guy in England, the guy who's in the big party in England, he's basically off of all his medication from type 2 diabetes.
And he's not the only one. Yeah. I mean, it's happening all over the world.
And one of the things I find fascinating is, I like the topic of nutrition, and I think that the reason a lot of people get confused is because there's always different diets being promoted. Yeah. But I think, I look at the three of us and we all eat different. I eat plant-based. How would you label it? Because you're not ketogenic.
Not ketogenic, so low carb, high fat.
Right. And you're kind of
but
like a clean eating.
I just eat.
But I'd say paleo based.
Okay.
You know, paleo. So,
Right.
so when I say paleo, it's you know, the common thread in all of these diets is whole unprocessed
Right.
foods.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I tell my patients, because everybody says, I'm so confused, I don't know what to
Right.
eat. And if you listen to the food industry, it's so confusing and you don't know what to eat. And if you pay any attention to the news, there's a lot coming out that the current dietary fat guidelines come from fabricated data.
Yeah.
And so there's actually no scientific data behind those guidelines whatsoever. So please don't be afraid of dietary fat. Fat is good for you, especially if you're getting it from healthy sources, like avocados.
I was thinking like avocados.
Coconut oil,
Yeah.
butter, particularly grass-fed butter. But those are all yolks.
Yeah.
Those are all great sources. But the common thread is that we all focus on these whole unprocessed foods.
Right.
And so I often tell my patients, if you want to eat healthier, think of the things, that you could forage or procure in nature. Like, what could you hunt for, fish for, gather, cultivate without modern technology? Those are the things that you should be eating.
Right.
Oh, I like that with the modern technology, because I always tell my kids when they pick snacks, I'm like, it has to come from a tree or from the ground.
And I'm gonna go a step further, because even though I don't eat meat, like people who I talk to about nutrition counseling, I say if you are going to eat meat, you should know where your meat is coming from and what's being put into it.
Yes. You are what you eat, and so you're absolutely right. So if you're eating grain-fed meat, cows that are fed on a feedlot and they're force-fed grains, that's not their natural diet, and those cows are sick and they're on medications throughout their life, and some of that is inevitably getting passed on through their meat.
That was something big for me, because I did plant-based with no animal products for 5 months, something like that, and it just didn't really work for my body. So I have now gone back to adding some in, but I've now changed where I'm getting my meat from. So now I'm doing Butcher Box, which is all non-GMO, all grass-fed, like
no
hormones, no antibiotics, like nothing. So I went that direction, because I was like, now that I'm putting it back in, I need to make sure it's the right stuff.
Absolutely, and there's a huge movement in that direction. And a lot of people will say, I can't afford to eat that way. It's too expensive. And it is expensive, but it's a lot less expensive than healthcare.
Right.
So, that quadruple bypass.
Right.
I mean, what does that cost?
Yes.
Right. Or a overnight stay in the ICU.
Yeah.
That alone.
So the food is absolutely worth it. And
there's tricks, though.
There are tricks. So there are absolutely tricks.
Yeah.
So farmer's market. So to buy your produce at a farmer's market, it is so much cheaper. To buy good quality fresh produce, either directly from the farmer at your farmer's market, is significantly cheaper than the organic section at the grocery store, and fresher and more nutritious.
Right.
Because it is so fresh.
Well, even simple things of like frozen. Like, I know that, people are like, oh my God, what do you do? I'm like, sometimes I cheat with frozen vegetables, because they really do have the same nutrients.
Right.
Not the same, but they do have the nutrients, because they're frozen, at their pure state.
Right.
So, that is, I'm like, you cheat with frozen vegetables sometimes.
Right. And for meat, you buy directly from the farm. So if you have the storage capabilities, we have a giant chest freezer. And so we purchase a half a cow and a half a pig twice a year.
Yeah.
And we eat nose to tail. So we eat not only the muscle meat, but we eat all the organ meat too. So you're really getting the complete animal. And it's, beef liver, very nutritious. Dirt cheap, because nobody wants it.
Because nobody wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you cook it?
Marinate it in lemon juice for 24 hours ahead of time, which gets rid of the blood taste.
Yeah.
And then pan-seared with a little bit of butter.
Oh.
Mushrooms and onions. And you can add some dried figs for a little bit of sweetness.
Oh, that would not be. And what's the texture of it?
So it's a little chewy, kind of like a pate almost.
All right, so it does have the consistency of the pate.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Chicken livers are great made into pates. And dipped in apples.
Tara's like, bleh.
So, we can change the subject for Tara.
Tara's convulsing over in the corner.
I'm just crying.
With a beautiful side of sauteed asparagus.
As long as it was killed ethically.
And the reality is, there's a huge concern for that as well. But these animals live. You buy them from directly from them. They live happy lives.
Yeah.
They're they're fed on grass, they're wandering, they're happy.
Yeah.
And then the slaughter really is, in a lot of these smaller family farms where they're focusing on raising the animals humanely, very oftentimes the slaughter is also very humane. And many of these places are willing to let you come in and witness their procedures to show you how ethically they try to be. Yeah.
Trying to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, we'll switch the topic just so Tara doesn't completely die. So what are some of your goals for next year? For 2019? What are some of your 2019 goals?
Gosh,
I know, randomly, I know you with your book. I see you over there with your book and your chart.
Yeah.
Yeah? I see you over there writing your numbers down.
I knew I liked Charlotte because she's very nerdy like us.
I'm such a data geek.
I love data.
So I spent an extra 5 years in graduate school to get a PhD, which I'm not directly using. It was definitely beneficial for me. I was in cancer biology, so it doesn't directly benefit my current clinical practice, but cancer research is fascinating. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm a total data geek. Actually, I just retested a workout today, Karen. Yeah, and I took 34 seconds off my time. So I had a big PR this morning, which was awesome.
Huge.
And unlike most CrossFitters, I actually love wall balls.
Yeah, I do too.
So
that's the only thing us tall girls can actually do.
Yeah. We see thrusters, pull-ups, just about anything, handstand push-ups. We're just wow, fuck.
Yeah. So I love wall balls. Feeling it now, though.
Yeah.
No, so in terms of, I like to be constantly improving. So if I look from a performance perspective, I don't have any hard and fast goals. I want to be able to do this performance, or one of my ultimate goals is to improve my gymnastics, because when I looked at the Open from last year, so the CrossFit Open, which is a set of workouts over 5 weeks where across multiple different domains, gymnastics was consistently my weakest, and so I've been really putting a lot of extra time into gymnastics work, and I love to go into the gym and just drills and skills, and I will do that for that boring technique work that everybody else hates, and I can do that for hours, and I love it. But I'd love to be able to do a strict muscle up, and the kipping muscle up, those are cool, but I really want to do a strict muscle up, and so that's
the ultimate test of strength.
That was kind of what I'm just gradually working, and I'm a long way from it, but that's what I'm kind of chipping away. So that. In terms of my family life, I have 5-year-old twins who just started kindergarten.
Oh, congratulations!
So it's a huge transition time right now, and so if we can survive kindergarten and everybody make it through alive and in one piece, that's a huge success.
Yeah, that's huge.
Professionally, I'm backing away this year from being a collegiate team physician to focus a little bit more on our younger athletes. And I'm actually have picked up a new high school contract, and I'm maybe adding another high school contract as well. And so getting a little bit more involved with our younger
that's so cool.
athletes
That's cool.
at a more local level.
That's
so
cool.
I'm really excited about that.
That's good. And then obviously your level 1 certification.
And my level 1 certification. Yeah,
that's exciting.
With CrossFit Health, and
Super
and becoming more integrated with that group, and potentially even presenting at the annual meeting next year with about the health benefits of high intensity interval training.
So where do people
just remember who interviewed you first?
Exactly. Where you dropped that information. You heard it here first, folks. It's where you heard it first. All right, so now tell people, to your own horn, where do they, if they need to use you for any of your services, where do people find you?
Oh, yeah.
And where do they find you for CrossFit? So you have to plug both of those.
Yeah. So I work with Orthopedics Rhode Island, and so our website, I think, is ortho.com. But if you Google Orthopedics Rhode Island, you will find us. I am.
How many locations? There's a lot of locations,
There's
right?
a lot of locations. So I actually see patients in 3 different locations in East Greenwich, in Wakefield, and in Westerly.
Okay.
If you want to schedule an appointment with me, our phone number is 401-789-1422. And if you dial extension 322, that will take you directly to my wonderful admin who can get you all set up. In addition, I am on Instagram as Charlotte Moriarty, MD. And you can also find me at CrossFit South Kingstown, and I am doing some coaching there as well. So I'm there on Tuesday afternoons, and starting in mid-October, I'll be there on Monday mornings at 5:30 a.m. as well.
Nice. Awesome.
I feel like we're on a telethon.
I love it.
Just waiting for the phones to ring.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And absolutely, and if you know that these two lovely ladies, you can absolutely reach out to them and they can put you in touch with me as well.
Absolutely.
So, lots of different ways to find me.
We're usually in the same places, is really the reality of it.
We're usually in Jen's dining room.
Or the gym. Yes, that's
gym.
usually where we are. So, well, Charlotte, thank you for spending your night with us tonight. We are it was so great to know you. This was so enjoyable just to really get to know you and to talk and it's always so great to hear someone's story. So I so appreciate it so much.
Oh,
yeah,
so much
that was
fun.
Awesome. I learned that I need an assault bike in the OR.
Oh gosh, you really do.
How awesome would that be?
That would be really good. You should contact Assault about that. All right, thanks guys. Have a good night.